In-Depth Outdoors, Spot on the Spot ID.
So on today's Spot on the Spot ID, I want to share just a basic approach to targeting and catching these perch midwinter on the Mississippi River. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is the backwater areas that you want to focus your attentions on will not have significant current running through them, and that's very important. One, from a safety standpoint, significant current equals really treacherous ice. And the second part of that equation being, if there's a lot of current running through an area, the fish in the winter, their metabolisms are really slow. They're just not going to expend a lot of energy to be in a high current area. So what I'm talking about here is you've got main channel here, lots of current. Don't try to cross it. Even in the coldest of winters, that's not going to work out very well for you. The type of area that I would recommend you look at would be this type of backwater here. You can see up here at the top, there's little feeder creeks coming in, but in the winter, of course, you just don't have a lot of precipitation driving flow coming into those areas. So this type of area, even though it does have little creeks coming into it, there's very limited current, and that sets up nicely from a safety standpoint, and it also becomes an area that will really attract the species we're looking for. The bass, the pike, the bluegills, the crappies, and then the perch, of course. So then it comes down to, how do I refine my search? What am I looking for? So much of these backwaters are just incredibly shallow. You've got weeds along the shorelines, you've got mud flats in the areas that I've kind of scribbled in there. And you might find fish there at times, but it's really, there's nothing there holding the fish in any one place at any numbers. So what you're almost always going to find in a productive backwater, you're going to find an area where, when there's real high precipitation and a lot of water is coming into one of these backwater lakes in the spring, there's always areas that get kind of dug out where you're going to see some depth. And where we end up setting up in that type of scenario, here, let me zoom in a little bit, is we really focus our attentions on the edge in these areas here. The perch will run along that slight depression that is in deeper water. And what you might have here is, you might have 4 to 5 feet in this area and 6 to 8 here. So it's a very insignificant amount of depth change to us as anglers, but to the fish it means everything. You've got heavy weed growth at times up in areas along the edge, and the fish will use that transition on the edge of the weeds where those fish can access that deeper water if they're feeling pressure or they're just in a mood where they're not feeding heavily that day. Most of our fish came at that 5.5 to 6 foot of water range, which was definitely not the deepest water we could find. So our time on the water today really adhered to that principle of find the edges, find that area where you drop down into the deepest water available, focus your attentions there, and that's where you're going to be the most productive most of the time.